This is Rebecca Schissel-Marshall with Whole Body Upgrade, a podcast to help you get unstuck, feel better, and have more energy. Let's get started. Welcome to Whole Body Upgrade, episode 83. Let's begin by welcoming in the directions. I welcome in the great direction of the east, the south, the west, and the north. I welcome in the direction that is above and below, and the direction that is within. I welcome in all the helping, loving, compassionate spirits, and I welcome in the ancestors who have lived well and died well. And I ask that what needs to be said, and what needs to be heard, be heard. And I acknowledge that we are on the land of the Creek in the Cherokee in what is now Athens, Georgia. Hello, dear ones. How are you? As I mentioned last week, I am watching how I'm being called into stillness by my guides more and more. It's actually quite fascinating how it's working and also how life is kind of testing. Can you stay still even in this situation? Can you have that stillness internally while this chaos swirls around you? So I pulled a card today from the Spirit Animal Oracle deck, and it was amazing because it was exactly the message. If you don't follow me on Instagram or Facebook, that's usually where I post the cards that I pull. But the message was rest and meditation are needed and that miracles are all around. And it was, I believe it was the bear card. So this stillness that we talked a little bit about last week, that's the practice. That is the thing that I am being called to do more and more of. And I'm finding it really hard to put words to it, to describe it. And I'm also finding that when I do talk about it, when I'm talking about like, let's just, throw this other stuff away, that more and more people are resonating with this idea of, yes, like I just want to rest. I just want to rest. And it's part of why I decided if you're on my email list, and if you're not, you should be on my email list, or if you were watching social media, is part of the reason why I decided to not offer Whole Body Upgrade. It just didn't feel like it was in alignment. And what I was being called to is to build a community for rest, where rest is the practice, where rest is the priority. And the whole idea is creating and cultivating stillness for a group of women. I think every human in the United States needs rest. And what I am offering to begin with is I'm going to offer this kind of free rest date. It's actually happening this Friday, April 1st. And I'll put the link in the show notes. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about it at the end of the episode. But I just wanted to let you know that it wasn't just for me. The stillness that I was thinking about wasn't just for me. It's for a community. So let's talk about rest. When I was asking my guides, when I was checking in, because I knew that something felt a little off, and I asked them, what about this stillness? What is this? And here's what my guides said to me when I asked them, what is stillness? They said, stillness is the source of everything. It is who you are and who you will become. When you find stillness from within, you have found you, your true self. It is all you are and will be. Stillness will fuel you when nothing else seems to fill up the void. While stillness looks like nothing, in reality, it is everything. So just take that in, right? It is everything. That's really why it feels so important lately. And as in contrast, as I mentioned in last week's episode, I think we as a culture, and I'm talking about the United States, right? We have a very narrowly defined view of what is rest. That rest is either when you're asleep, maybe napping, right? That might be, which of course we're told that napping is not good. And perhaps I've noticed this with a lot of the students I teach at the university, that rest for them is watching Netflix for hours a day. And I think actually it's not true of just students, but I've noticed that that's more and more pervasive feeling. I just need to rest. I just need to unwind from the day. So I'm going to watch Netflix or YouTube or scroll. And we think that if we're not doing those, kind of one of those three things, then we're not resting, right? So what I'd like to offer, what I'd like to propose is that we look at rest and stillness a little differently than we've been conditioned to look at rest. That there is this quality inside of us, a quality that feels like a deep pool of cool water on a hot Georgia day. That the stillness is not the swirly water kind of at the shores of the ocean, right? But more of the calm water, right? Below the surface, or a calm water in a deep lake. There is this possibility that rest is not actually what we've been conditioned to believe. It's interesting to look at what we've been taught about rest, or what you think about rest, because what I hear, even my own children, is they'll be sitting around and they're like, I'm just feeling lazy. And that we're taught that rest is lazy, right? Which has a kind of a judgment to it. Or we're even taught that we should think that our bodies should, and I'm putting quotes around that our bodies should be able to go all day long without stopping. That resting somehow means that we are weak, that we're lazy, that we can't do it, that there's something wrong with us. And that we can put all sorts of fuel in it, and that this body, this life that we have, will just kind of continue to run at the same pace. That our bodies are just supposed to run and run and run, or our minds, right? That we're supposed to be able to just get work done. I've only been sitting at the desk all day. And that then we use different tools, right? Because we think there's something wrong when I feel tired while I'm sitting at my desk at 2:00 in the afternoon. So we reach for caffeine or sugar, or sometimes even alcohol, right? To get our bodies to go along with what our society is telling us that we should be able to do. But what if that's not really what rest is all about? What if instead of thinking of rest as only not doing or sleeping, that we think of rest as an action? What if rest is actually the most productive thing you can do for yourself each day? Right? That at the very top of our to-do list is rest. What if how we think about productivity is actually all wrong? What if productivity is nourishing our bodies, our minds, our emotions, our spirits, right? What if sitting in the sun is actually the most productive thing you can do? That when we make our to-do list for the day, it includes the first and foremost thing, right? The basis, the foundation of sleep, of rest, even joy. that when we put those first, all the other things will fall into place. So instead of thinking we need to rest after we finish the to-do list, the to-do list becomes rest. Sitting in the sun, knitting, walking in the woods, right? Just doing those things that are, the word I like to use is nourishing. That's nourishing to us. So it may be a nap, right? It may be actually sleeping. It may be that it's having a food, a meal of nutritious food that really nourishes you, right? Those things can feel like rest. Cooking can feel like rest for some people. It's going to be different for different people. So that this idea is that our greatest, right? If we switch this perspective, what if our greatest work, and again, quotations, right? Our greatest work, that those things, that is being productive, right? That our greatest work is doing those things that nourishes us. It's not self-care necessarily. It's fuel. It's how we have to do these things in order to go. If a car, you have an amazing, expensive car, and it doesn't have whatever fuel it is, right? The electric cord or the gasoline or whatever kind of fuel you're using, if it doesn't have that, it's not going to run, right? It doesn't mean there's something wrong with the car. It just means it hasn't been given the fuel that it needs. So for that car to go anywhere, for that productivity to happen, you have to have that very basic stuff first. And to me, right, that fuel, that nourishment is finding a place to rest, right? Finding a time, finding a sensation of rest, right? That's the word, when I talk about stillness, that's what I'm referring to. So from my own experience, what my guides keep telling me and yammering on about is that I'm so slow to learn. The reason I talk about this stuff so much is because I'm very good at talking to my guides and I'm very slow at learning, and I'm trying to get better at this. But it's because I know if I'm having a hard time, other people probably are too. So I'm very slow to learn, and what they keep saying is rest and space is what leads to the results that we want. That rest and that spaciousness is actually where we need to go. So we think about hanging out in the actions, right? I'll write this email to my boss. I'm going to ask for this. I'm going to do this. But what if the action that was really required was stillness and rest, nourishing yourself, right? And that's the result. That's what leads to results. The results we want in our lives are not because of the wrong action, but from the lack of rest that I see on all of these levels, right? The 5 wellness bodies, all of those. The rest that we're missing on each one of those: mental rest, emotional rest, physical rest, energetic rest, spiritual rest, all of those. When we have those, the results we want, whatever that might be, the health that we want, the new job that we want, the relationship we want, that comes from increased stillness. This is the message. And again, kind of going back to what we talked about in the last episode, is that the stillness doesn't mean sitting still. I need a better word for that. Stillness actually happens in motion, right? So when we touch into that sensation or the feeling, the embodiment of stillness, we can find it beneath our kind of conscious level, beneath consciousness. The other day, I was having a few difficult conversations in my family, and I noticed that for myself, I was noticing the emotions of anger and resentment that were coming up. And they showed up, they were big, and I practiced feeling them, right? I practiced feeling those emotions, being present with my emotions. And I kept asking my body, like, where is stillness now? Where is stillness now, right? Really focusing on, could I just touch it, right? Could I just touch into that stillness like a touchstone, right? Touch that cool, hard, but solid rock of stillness, right? And there it was. Rest, stillness in the storm of emotions that were coming up, right? Stillness in the chaos. It was there all along, and I could touch it. And I could be with all of it. So when I touched into that stillness, right, all the stuff that was going on, I could be present. I could be fully there. So sometimes we think of rest as like, I got to clear everything off my calendar, which I also highly recommend. I think we're overscheduled in this world. But rest isn't always just getting rid of, right? Rest isn't always getting rid of. But maybe holding all of it in a place of acceptance and compassion. Yes, here is anger. Yes, here is sadness. Yes, here is resentment, right? Yep, there it is. Shoo, let's hold that in compassion. And there's stillness in that. And that's really what I want to create. I've been craving community. And I've been craving a space of stillness. So that's what I want to create, is I want to create a community where people can come to rest, to practice and really develop the skill of stillness and set down these things that feel heavy in our lives. So this community, this thing that I'm creating, is called a place to rest. This is what we're doing instead of whole body upgrade. It's going to include some weekly sessions. We'll have weekly, right now I'm thinking it'll be virtual Zoom sessions, right? Where we're going to rest together. So I'm going to hold space for you in holding the rest and leading you in that rest. Channeling from my guides, and probably pulling oracle cards as well. And eventually what I'd like to have is a library or a resource for everyone who's in this community with audios and videos to support stillness, right? To support the development of that skill of listening to your body, of no, not right now, and yes. Yeah, well, how can I nourish myself in a way that supports this stillness, right? This sacred, I feel this is a sacred community. This is a sacred rest community or container. And it really feels so delicious to me right now, just even talking about it. And I hope you'll join me. For right now, as I'm getting all the details together, what I'm going to do is I'm going to offer a free rest day. And that's, as I mentioned, Friday, April 1st at 12 p.m. Eastern. It will be recorded. So if you can't make it live, there will be a recording for anyone who registers. So if I have your name, I'll put it on the list, and that way I know to send you the recording. And I'll put the link in the show notes. It's real simple, just your name and your email address. And then I'll invite you this Friday, and I'll let you know as we get started with all of this, building this community, if that's something that's of interest to you, that you can join and that we can hold space for each other in that stillness, in that rest, in that way of being with that presence of mind, that presence of heart, presence of body. Okay, dear ones, I can't wait to see how you practice bringing rest into your own life. And you can ask yourself these questions, right? You can ask, where is stillness now? Or even as simple as what would feel restful today, right? What would feel like stillness, right? What would bring that quality to me? It could be moving, it could be exercise, it could be reading a book, it could be dancing in your living room, right? All of those can evoke a feeling of stillness and restfulness. So you might be surprised with what answers you come up with. And I would love to hear. Let me know. Send me an email. Okay, dear ones, take good care of yourself. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for joining me on this episode of Whole Body Upgrade. If you'd like to learn more about working with me, you can visit me on Facebook or Instagram or on my website, Centeredyou, that's Centeredyou.com. See you on the next episode of Whole Body Upgrade.